So hello and welcome everybody. We're glad to have you here this afternoon. This is our roundtable discussion, our Personal Prints 2020 Roadworks crew. We're having a showcase and a discussion with them. We're really excited here at the Center for the Book to be able to host Erica Barajas, Danguole Kuolas, Karl Roeseler, Kate Rudder, and Laura Wellington today. They are a handful of our personal prints artists for 2020, and we're excited to have them here. Thea Sizemore is our moderator for today. Thea runs Cava Moore Press over in Berkeley, California, and I have to say that I am so grateful that she could help us out and be our moderator for today. We had a great, fantastic discussion just a little while ago with Erica Barajas and Melissa West. I have no doubt that this is going to be fabulous. So Thea, I'll hand it over to you. And
So Thea, I don't have sound for you.
This one.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you to all of our personal print artists that are joining us today, and also thank you to all of our participants for coming to Roadworks virtually. We hope to be back together again for Roadworks in person next year. This is one of our largest events that the San Francisco Center for the Book hosts every year. So we are happy to be able to come together in this capacity, you know, since we can't be together in person with the Steamroller and all the good vibes there. So we'll have to create our own here, but you know, fortunately, I've got like a room full of amazing people to help me with that today. I'm going to, in the chat here, I'm going to plop some information in here. It's a lot of stuff here, but if you read through that, you'll find all of the different artists. When I see my problem here, I'm going to have to do it a little bit separately because it's like grouping everything together. So let me just do that kind of while you guys are talking. I'll do that. So maybe we can start by having each of our panelists, we'll kind of go do a little round robin, and the panelists can introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their practices, and then we can kind of move into questions. For those of you that are observing our panel discussion, you can put into the comments any questions that you have for the panelists, and then we can kind of go through those. So I'm going to start with Erica, and then we'll kind of go around our little group, and they can tell us a little bit about themselves.
Hi, thanks so much, Thea, and thanks for everybody who's watching. My name is Erica Barajas, and I'm a printmaker here. I work out of the Compound Gallery and Studios in Oakland, and I'm just really grateful to be here. Thanks to the San Francisco Center for the Book, too.
Okay, so we can go Danguole. Are you there?
Hi, I'm Danguole Kuolas, and this is the first time that I'm participating as a personal. I work primarily in woodblock, carving and printing woodblocks. I also use polymer plates in my practice of printmaking. I make handmade paper and handmade books.
Okay.
My name is Karl Roeseler, and my primary practice is painter. My studio is on Kearny Street between Bush and Pine in San Francisco. Every once in a while, I feel the urge to take out the knives and carve a bit of linoleum. This is my 5th year and doing Roadworks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Rudder, and I'm what you might call a free-range maker and creative. My primary practice is in interaction design in the tech field, And but I also have a creative practice that's been ongoing for many years. What I love about the personal print work and opportunity is I don't have access to printing machines or any kind of big process like that. So I have an opportunity to participate in a new way each year. It's my second year of doing it, although I've been a long-time fan. And Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Wellington. I work under the artist name Biscuit, and I am primarily a lithographer and letterpress printer, but due to not having access to a studio, I've been doing a lot of relief work at home with a trusty wooden spoon. That's been pretty great. And I've been actually initiating some print exchanges this year, working with international and other printmakers around the US to just inspire people to keep printing, and it's turned out really well. Get a lot of people with some pretty great ideas to start collaborating, and that's always really fun.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you guys again for joining me for this conversation. So maybe we can go into these questions that we kind of outlined previously while we're waiting for other people to submit questions for us. Do you guys want to tell us a little bit about your process of creating the personal prints this year? Maybe we can Erica and go around again.
Sure, yeah, this is my first time doing the personal prints for this event. I volunteered, I don't remember if my hands were inky or clean, but I volunteered in 2015 and 2016, and remember, seeing the personal prints and wanting to participate someday. So I'm really excited to get to do that this year. And I've been away from the studio for a few years, having children, young little children, and so this was actually my first print since my second daughter has been born. So it was really helpful to have a deadline and a very manageable project to do to get back into things. I just started renting the studio space a few months back, and so this was motivating for me to have a deadline and some constraints of a certain medium and a certain size, and I really appreciated that. So I have to be honest, I'm a little nervous being the first one to answer questions because I don't want to take up too much time. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to the next person.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Danguole?
Yes, I started working on this linoleum block print while I was through Oregon and Washington, and of course I had a sketchbook with me, and we traveled through areas that were destructed by fire, orchards that were affected by the drought, and all of my sketches kept bringing me back to this visual exploration of the devastation that I saw. And but in certain areas, I would start to notice the rebirth, the regeneration of nature, and that gave me hope that all is not doomed. So this print reflects this kind of understory of what's happening beneath the trees as nature is reinventing itself. And I originally signed up to do this personal print because at this time of the pandemic and so many cultural institutions are suffering, I thought, well, this is a small way to be able to help out a good organization.
And we appreciate that immensely. Thank you. Just as a quick reminder before you go, Karl, that all of the prints are for sale. And so in the chat next to the artist's names, I've included a number associated with their print. If you're interested in ordering their print, you can do so there. And then the proceeds support the center. Okay, that's my little spiel there. But dog prints, people. Okay, Karl. Go on.
So my impulse to do this originally is very similar to Danguole's, that I really wanted to support the center somehow. And I, for years, enjoyed watching Roadworks, you know, when it was just doing the classic prints, the large ones. When it was opened up to smaller ones, I was on it. I really wanted to do it. And I just drew from a body of work that Swirling Cityscapes, because that's something I was familiar with, and it was, you know, the only thing comfortable about doing that. But then this next year I did it, I wanted to refer somehow to the previous year. So I did like a little swirling cityscape on the wall, and then incorporated other elements from my work. And the next year, since I started that, you know, you have to sort of continue it, right? Art has these ethical obligations that it extends, and so there's the chairs and the coffee cup. And then the next year it gets tougher. Like each year it gets tougher and tougher. So the ampersand, and when they sort of tie it all together, and that it does, the bar keeps on going higher and higher and higher. But somehow this year I stumbled on part of the sheltering in place, what it means for me anyway. You know, the man of the hammock. But it's I try to have some sort of element of playfulness in much of my work.
Awesome. So my inspiration came from another collective project I did last year with Inktober. I had just recently read The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern, and I was enchanted by the visual, just vividness and potency of the images. And so I did an Inktober project, one ink and pen each day for 31 days. But this year I looked at, like Karl, trying to kind of go with a theme. And we're also in this pandemic, so I chose Cloud Maze. And it's kind of poignant that last year when I looked at it, it was about the beauty, and, you know, the excerpt from The Night Circus talks about an excursion in dimension and a climb through the firmament, all these fancy words. And yet I wanted something a little more stark, because now, instead of this being just a playful place where Aegeans have no fear of falling, we're actually in a situation where there's a lot of fear of falling. And these ladders to clouds and dreams are not solid, and they are at risk. And so I kind of wanted to reconnect with the thought that this might look fanciful, but it's also a way for people to connect and for people to climb up towards their dreams. And I think a lot of that is at risk right now. So that was part of what drew me to that image, but in a very different way from the initial image that I created. It's kind of sad, but also filled with hope and a lot of fortitude.
Thanks, Kate.
So this is my first year participating in Roadworks, but I've attended several years just because it's always good to support the arts, and there's not too many days you can go and see a Steamroller print some really cool art. So yeah, I actually didn't know that you could just be a random person and be able to participate. So when I got the email this year, I definitely jumped on that. And yeah, like everybody else, the current events and the weight and anxiety and dread has been weighing on me as an artist and a person. And I just gotten off a print exchange with the theme monsters, so those sorts of themes were still in my head. So I did a Medusa print for this personal print, but I had her holding the mirror, which is sort of the way to defeat her rather than having it pointed directly at her. And was just trying to also give a message of hope. So she's, you know, a dangerous monster, but we all have our bad days and our flaws. But by holding that mirror, I was hoping to give some people some hope and inspiration to turn those flaws into positive notes and have that weapon to kind of face the world against people who are looking to destroy you or tear you down. So that was, I unfortunately don't have a copy of my print, so I can't hold it up, but it's number 24 for anybody who wants to go check it out.
Yeah, so it's a little tricky, you know, because the prints are being produced now. So it makes it a little bit difficult. We have a few artists that have been able to print out, like digital proofs of their plates. And, we can, those can be shown, but it's really unfortunate that, it's like they're being produced live while we're talking live. So it's a little bit of a tricky, horse and carriage situation. But, it's our first time doing this live online. So, there's some things we're learning along the way. But,
oh, thank you.
There we go.
Oh, good one. Good one. Yeah.
Yeah, on the phone. That's beautiful, Erica.
That was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Nice.
There we are. It's very meta this way,
Yeah.
It's sort of ironic holding a digital image of a physical print, but here we are.
Yeah. And Sharon has kindly shared the store link in our chat there for us. Thanks, Sharon. So if anybody wants, they can click on that. And then also, while I'm thinking of it, Kate, yes, there you are. I didn't have any web link for you or an Instagram handle, so if you want to share that, feel free. So where are we? It's definitely an interesting year for sure. And, I think we've all had to come up with like new ways to envision our practices or new things, that we're sort of doing because, we're at home, things are different. So maybe we can, if you have some thoughts on that, we could talk about that for a moment, just like how your practice maybe has changed or things that you're doing now that you weren't doing before. I think that would be a good topic.
Okay. I also got a text from someone saying that my audio is not great, but I'm not sure if that's true across the board.
I can hear you
can you all
okay.
hear me okay? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I made some notes about this question because I was really struggling to come up with a kind of succinct answer. I think this was the most complex of the questions that Thea sent us. And I guess I just wanted to start by just showing a little bit of how I decided to move forward with my image. So this is the final. It's again a printout of a digital photo of a proof print, but this is the burgeoning transitions print that I carved for this project. And usually if I have a project like this where there's ultimately no prompt and there's not a theme, I do a lot of journaling and brainstorming initially. So I have my composition book, which I think I bought this after the print, but I have the moon phases there. So I have a sketchbook, whatever. I'll write, I'll make little sketches until I get to a place where I keep coming back to the same ideas or images. And there's a lot of it that is kind of getting out of my own way, and it feels like sometimes. So not overthinking it too much and really trying to clear my mind before starting out in the studio, and even doing some logistical things like laying out a schedule for myself when there's a deadline. So I know how many days I should be spending designing versus carving. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do this gradient in the background, which involved drilling a lot of little holes. And I knew that was going to be work intensive, but I didn't understand how I started doing it, and then there was no going back. So I think I did actually log my time on this, and it took at least 51 hours to carve the plate, and at least 16 of those hours were spent drilling tiny little holes. And when I finished, I was like, I'm never doing this again. And as soon as I saw the proof, I said, okay, I'm definitely doing this. Maybe not exactly the same, but so as far as the in journaling and thinking about what's been going on in the world, and even things that have been going on for a long time and have been brought to the surface, police brutality, systemic racism, specifically thinking about with limited contact with people and institutions right now, because we can't leave our houses as much, really being more and more aware of how people and institutions can be really dynamic, like the natural world constantly changing, or it can also be static or stagnant in trying to keep things the way they are. And that actually takes a lot of energy to keep things the same in a world where it's natural for things to be constantly changing. So I have the phases of the moon there just to kind of get, I had some celestial imagery coming up for me around kind of timelessness, but also cycles within a greater sense of time, both looking at like linear time versus cyclic, more of a circular time models. And I often include kind of either biological or organic looking forms in my work. If you look at my website, you'll probably see that. And was just trying to approach this as a prayer or a meditation on what I want to see in the world. And I think honestly, the finished image, I don't think necessarily conveys that, but that's part of what was going on for me. So kind of accepting what is happening, but also trying to influence things in the future through interactions with individuals, but also wherever we work or interact with institutions where we might have some power to change things, to be looking for that. And I'll stop there and pass it along. Thanks.
Okay, well, I guess I'm next for a moment. I guess once the pandemic started, being forced to be at home at home studio, I'm lucky, fortunate to that. It really helped me to focus on my work and without other distractions getting in the way, like cleaning the house for company or anything like that. So I do a lot of sketching. So for my print, the linoleum, it started out with this. This is the sketch that I started out with, and then this is a poorly executed proof, one that I saw being printed by the Steamroller very nicely. I don't always work from a sketch. I'm more of an intuitive artist. And during the course of the pandemic, I found myself planning on it, but a lot of it has become very, pencil. And one of the polymer plate etchings that I did during this is concerning rising sea levels and the destruction that it's causing. The other thing that I forced myself to do things that normally I wouldn't do, so I began making up mistake prints to cut them up and make them into other creations. I had never done a reduction woodblock print. It's where you carve some lines, printed, carve some more lines or shapes, printed, and as a result of being cooped up, I did my first reduction woodblock, many hours. So I think I made good use of this time that I've been cooped up in my studio. That's it.
That's great. Thank you, Danguole.
I guess rather than being cooped up, I've been uncooped. My studio is in San Francisco, and I'm there now. I live in Redwood City, and normally during my regular work weeks pre-pandemic, I had a day job that was just a couple of blocks from where my studio was. So it was perfect. I would leave my day job and go to my studio, and it was pretty much there every day and one day during the weekend. With the sheltering in place, it sort of seemed to defeat the spirit of sheltering in place if I drove up to the city to my studio. So I would only go one day a week and would create portable projects that I could take and do in Redwood City, but I didn't have the place that we live in is very tiny. And there's one room in our house where you can see into every other room. It's an old bungalow, so it's kind of it's perfect for my wife and me, but it's very small. So to create a workspace there, I built out of scrap lumber just this little table that's really 2 foot by 2 foot, and I work on that on the patio, and I call that my portable studio. And during the bad smoke, I brought it inside, so it was good that it was portable. But during the carving was kind of an example of how normally I would really most prefer to be absolutely alone when I'm carving, just so that no one else has to witness what happens with the blaze. But it wasn't possible this time, and so that was kind of interesting. And I found it actually didn't matter, but it has that whole relationship to work is changed in a way, but so it's I don't know. I'm still processing maybe the greater philosophic questions of our time, because it's a lot. I'm a fiction writer also, and I deal more directly with sort of that aspects of the pandemic in fiction. But in my visual work, it'll probably take me 4 or 5 years to have it start bubbling up, I think.
Well, like many of you, I have a sketchbook practice. This is my studio, and it goes everywhere with me. And this is volume 64, so they're starting to stack up. So one weird thing happened when the pandemic hit, that I just stopped drawing, and I draw something every day, whether a lot of it's observational, sometimes it's more schematic, but I kind of shut down, and it was interesting to see on the social media this land rush towards drawing and sketching and draw out your window. And some of my most beloved artists were doing draw daily and doing Instagram types of live feeds to really engage people with some type of creative expression during this time when we're locked inside our homes. And I did the exact opposite. I kind of shut down. But I started with a nature journaling practice called a sit spot outside. And I'm not really an outdoorsy person, but I started gardening, which was fascinating because then things grow and change. And that has been a whole different connection to something during the pandemic. And I really considered taking that for the print inspiration. But a couple things happened. First of all, I am not a printer, a practice printer. So I kind of love what you were saying, Laura, about the wooden spoon. Most of my printing has taken place on those styrofoam meat packages with a dead ballpoint pen, and Braille made from a wooden spoon. And so, although I'm experimental, I didn't really feel confident with the practice. And so with a linoleum cut, there's a sense of majesty to that. I think it's an official material. And so I made a different choice. And now I'm kind of regretting that. I wish that I'd taken just doing something new and made it more cohesive around the green and growing world, some of the things that we've heard from the other artists. But one thing that I also loved, Erica, talking about your lino cut hangover in the morning. You work late at night and then you're like, oh, what have I done? 1 dot too many. And I do most of my cutting probably between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. when I am alone and quiet in the home. And so that's why all the lighting on any of the Instagram shots is so horrific. It's because it's like my cast light and it's dead and dark outside. So that really didn't get to the question, but I think it's interesting to see the different ways our creative practices start to emerge when we're forced into something that's completely different from our everyday routine. And so now I'm not an outdoorsy person, in a major way, but I have a garden and it's not dead, and that's exciting. And I'm kind of reconnecting with how things start to grow on a daily basis, which is a much more meditative and instructive observational practice than I've had before. So I think that's quite beautiful. So maybe next year I'll do some kind of print based on that.
Sounds good. Laura.
Yeah. So similarly, I don't have a studio in my house, and so when the pandemic hit and I lost studio access, I can no longer process or print lithographs, and I'm not able to print my letterpress pieces by hand yet. I'm not that good, so I had to kind of pivot and figure out what to how to be able to still produce lovely printmaking art without the two that I usually gravitate towards. So I had a bunch of leftover linoleum from years ago when I was still experimenting with that. So I'd been working through that pile, and then so I had a little bit of practice to rub off the rust before I went into this personal print. However, with both lithograph and letterpress, you have a little bit of flexibility to change your mind and make adjustments as you go, so you don't have to be super locked into place. Whereas if you, like you said, one dot too many, if you carve too much, it's really hard to put it back. So the linoleum was a little bit more tricky in that sense, where I tend to do a pretty loose sketch and just do tight sketches on things like faces or tricky parts. So as I was carving, it's like, oh, I would like this thing to overlap, but oops, I already carved that away, so I guess it'll go behind it. And so that was kind of a fun exploration of how do you pivot in progress with relief. So, but it was a lot of fun, and yeah, our studios are opening up again, so still trying not to go out too much, but been able to be there once or twice since the pandemic started, and getting back into other processes. But just seeing the change that a lot of artists have gone through with both either over or under producing, or their imagery and messages have changed. You see a lot more political messages in art, and I feel like that's very important right now, but important in general, that people are active and involved in what's going around them and inspiring other people to do the same. So yeah, kind of rambly, but I think it's been a pretty visceral change for most people.
Yeah, I definitely found that, you know, it's events like this and, you know, other, you know, avenues that have opened up to help connect people virtually has been really a pleasant surprise. And, you know, I've been able to connect with artists like yourselves and other artists all over the country that I would not have probably connected with otherwise, which is definitely one of the lemonades of, you know, this situation, right? You know, so I am definitely very thankful for that aspect. I mean, can you imagine if this happened before the internet?
Like in 1915?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we would have been like, you know, really lost. So I see we've got a couple questions simmering in here from our chat. Jenny wants to know, of those of you that are repeat personal print artists, if you have a favorite print that you've created. Oh. So feel free to just jump in, you know, if you're a repeat artist and you want to respond to that.
I have some fondness with just the first one, because it was I think all of us have talked about how it's changed our relationship a little bit somehow in doing this. And I am like many of us, I don't like printing a proof from the block. I just sort of like to see it the first time it's actually printed. And that experience of walking up to the chain link fence and seeing the printed prints for the first time, and it's like, oh my gosh, it worked. You know, that kind of feeling, there's nothing quite like it. So it's so getting the digital image was kind of that way, you know. And I think probably my most recent one is always my favorite, because that's the one I'm most engaged in. So I guess that was a duplicitous non-answer.
Anyone else?
Well, I've only ever done two. So the one last year I did, you can kind of see it behind me. It's a Muni train turning at the corner of 9th and Judah, where I lived for many years. I like that one because it's kind of catawampus. I think that my favorite so far is this year's. Although, you know, once you take that linoleum away, you never get it back. And so it's appropriate that it's a little stark, but it did start out with more under the clouds. And I really wish that if I had one thing that I'd like to do over based on this, it would be really expressing the material, which has that woodcut quality. And I think I explored that better last year than I did this year. I got a little overly aggressive. I think I took out some frustration on the process. So, you know, I even kind of dug through on one of the stars. It goes all the way through. So God love the makers and they set it for the book for, you know, making that work. But yeah, I liked it. I like this one.
Anyone else?
This was my first year.
My first year.
Year one, year one.
You're one of many.
Yay.
I know. You're hooked.
Exactly.
But I will say it's kind of a weird year to have it be your first year, but you know, it will get better from here.
It just means I'll be year one again next year in a totally different way.
Exactly. So we have another question about, they want to know, how did you feel about the size of the carving / printing? And they specifically said, I expected the prints larger from the Steamroller. So does anybody have any thoughts on that they'd like to share?
Well, Lisa, I don't know.
Well, of course, it would have been amazing to do. Oh, I'm sorry. It would have been amazing to do one of the huge prints that we saw being printed. But in terms of the time consideration, that 9x12 was the perfect size to get it done in time. I think I would need much more time to do a much larger piece. So I think the size was just for it. And I'd love to do a larger one.
It's definitely a lower time commitment for sure.
But even so, challenging. I mean, it's from the time you get the linoleum to the time you need to turn it back in. It's
I think they only get like 4 or 5 weeks or something, right?
Yeah. And I think too, since this event is a fundraiser, I think it's wise to have these smaller prints that are more affordable. I'm not sure how many of the large 3x3 prints get purchased each year, but it makes sense to have a diverse revenue stream there. So I think I like that part of it. And it's also a little more, you know, democratic. And I think of printmaking as having its roots in, you know, being able to disseminate information to the people. So I like that part of it too.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I like being able to have that range of, you know, like I can pick up a piece of original art at a really affordable price. It's pretty cool. And thank you again, all of you, for producing those works. It's like really makes the whole event. So, you know, kudos to you guys. Let's see. It's about 2:40. So maybe we could take like one more question if there's one more out there. Anyone? Type it in there. We'll give a moment for them to, like, you know, think about that and see if they want to type anything in for us. But I will say again, thank you to all of you again. And the prints again are available for purchase. And I would encourage you to visit all of these artists if they've posted websites or Instagrams. Like, this is a cool way that we can kind of keep the connection going. Is to like connect with everyone in their other virtual lives. So definitely, and I can quickly post those again for everyone in case there were people that didn't get, I can't tell how, you know, if you can scroll back through the chat or not. But in case people need them again, I can post that again. Any other questions?
I guess I have a question if nobody else does.
Oh yeah, sure. That's great.
What are all you guys working on currently?
Well, mostly I've been
I-
mostly I've been waiting to see this thing get printed. So I have an
Yay.
ongoing. I just have an ongoing, just kind of filler drawing project that I have colored pencil drawing that I do just to kind of make sure that I show up to the studio when I don't have a specific project I'm working on. So I'll do that. And I'm also doing a little side project it's funny, Kate, you mentioned the styrofoam plate printing. I actually just got to do some printing with my 4.5-year-old. So I'm kind of, cutting up the materials and getting that stuff ready, hoping to do that with her. But then I think I'd like to do some screen printing, which I finally got set up to do here. So I know what medium, but I don't know exactly what the project will be yet. That's a good question. How about you?
So yeah, I've gotten access to my studio again, so I'm doing
Yay.
lithography. I'm super excited. Again, I'll show a digital image because I don't have stuff here, but I'm in the process of doing some more Halloween-y
Oh, cool.
focus. Some more Halloween style prints, and yeah, getting ready to launch another print exchange, which I will put on my Instagram if any of you or anybody watching would like to participate. It's open to all, so that's what I'm working on.
And I'm working on a new polymer plate etching, and so this is the first proof that I've done of it. I want to do some more adding color over printing, etc. So again, it kind of goes along the theme that this, just the aftermath of destruction.
Karl, you want to go?
Sure. So I've been working on some encaustic pieces, and this is a longer piece that's in progress that I will be imposing a structure on top of it, kind of a linear structure, but with a hot stylus. So it's the opposite of when linoleum block carving, where you are adding more and more layers of wax. And this guy's probably going to take me about 4 months or so. So it's in its nascent stages.
So one of the things that I did to get back into a visual practice right at the beginning of the pandemic was a 100-day project. My partner likes avocados, so I put an avocado in a jar of water and I drew it for 100 days, and it's still alive. And that kind of actually got me going on that thing. So I'm taking my 250 index cards, which were all for individual days and observations of how it was growing, and putting those into a book.
Cool.
So.
Cool.
Awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Thea, are you working on something?
I have been working on it's really interesting. Like I don't really, most of the work I do is very client-based usually, but I've found myself being a little bit more politically charged of late. And so I've had a variety of different posters and print projects for Black Lives Matter. And I also did I'm kind of into the snail mail. So I've been doing like social media snail mail, where I took like social media posts and then hand set and set those. That was a fun project. I'm getting ready to start another aspect of the snail mail postcard soon that will be, even more heavily community based. So trying to find a way to connect with the community. So stay tuned. So if you're interested in following that, I'm at Cavamore Press, and you can find Cavamore on Instagram, and that's probably the best way to follow these sort of kind of ongoing projects for me. So anyone else have any other last things they want to add before we wrap up here?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for including us in this panel. It's been fun, and it's a nice range of work. I like everybody's work. I think it's so interesting to me how important negative space is to each of our bodies of work. and how different it's used in all those bodies. That's very cool.
Yeah, well, I really love this panel format, and I'm already thinking about ways that the center could incorporate this into a live event in person live, not like online live, but in person event in the future. So hopefully we can kind of keep this going.
You might want to look at, I know the Sketchbook Project in Brooklyn has been doing similar formats, which has been really successful. So maybe you guys can do the same.
Yeah, I love the Sketchbook Project. That's a really cool thing.
Yes, I've been doing it for many years too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, maybe we will wrap up. Thank you all for coming, both panelists and participants. I would encourage you to head back to the main stage to watch some more printing, visit, our various booths in the expo area, because there's still, a little over an hour left of Roadworks 2020.
Thank you.